Hi guys, welcome back to my channel. I'm so glad you stopped by today because today we are going to be working on more of a winter type creature. Recently I moved to an area that we might actually get snow for Christmas, so I kind of wanted to do something really wintry themed, and I thought it'd be really cool to do a forest spirit. Anyways, let's get started. So, since our forest spirit is going to be a winter theme, I thought giving him some antlers, like a ton of them that look like dead branches, would be really cool. So I have a couple pieces of wire that I'm going to use as like a basic frame for them, and I'm going to use my epoxy sculpt to start out with the majority of the branch. I'm going to let that cure a little bit, and then I can add more branches to the main branch. So I'm going to have two main antlers that are going to be very large and decorative and really detailed, and then I'm going to have a couple more medium-sized ones, and then a few small ones, and then even just a few little sticks here and there that I can add around the antlers to kind of fill it in a bit more. Once I get all of my antlers done, I'm going to let them cure overnight, and then the following morning we can start on the head of our creature. So to start off the clay head, I have a lump of tinfoil connected to a glass container, and to make it a little lighter because all the antlers are going to add a lot of weight to the head, I'm going to roll out my clay for a thin sheet of it, and then I'm going to drape it over my tinfoil. I'm going to make sure everything is covered and blended together, and then I'm going to start adjusting it to get the shape of the head that I want. So even though my forest spirit is based off of a snow leopard, I don't want to go extremely accurate with the face. I want to give it kind of a eerie, maybe humanoid look to it, but I still want to get a lot of snow leopard into the face. Kind of like the face of the forest spirit from Princess Mononoke. It's still a deer, but it has this eerie, human-ish look to it. And then once I have a pretty rough layout of the face, I'm going to figure out where I want to add the antlers. So I'm going to kind of find the middle of the forehead, and then I'm going to start making some holes that I can push my antlers into. Now, normally when I make antlers, I try to make them really symmetrical because I like how everything is nice and even on the face, but because these are tree branches, making them symmetrical would look really weird because it wouldn't look as natural as a tree, because trees don't grow that way. So I didn't really focus heavily on making them symmetrical, but I tried to make them very similar. And then for placement, I'm trying to do the same. I don't want to have them perfectly symmetrical, but I want to fill in the top of the head evenly. And then once I'm happy with the placement of the antlers, I'm going to move on to adding more detail to the face. Now I'm going to wait on sculpting around the eyes until I replace them with the actual glass eyes that I want to use. So right now I'm going to focus on the nose and the mouth. I realized that I made the bridge of the nose way too flat and I wanted to kind of change it up a little bit, so I'm going to add more clay and kind of make the bridge of the nose stick up and a little bit more pointed. Now with cat noses, they look a lot like canine noses, but they really aren't. There's a lot of very distinct differences in the shape and layout of them that are very, very subtle, but if you don't get them right, it does look like a dog nose. So I highly recommend when you're making a cat nose to use a lot of reference photos. Once I have that done, the last thing I need to do is focus on the texture of the face. So I'm still furring the face, but I'm going to throw in a little bit of a fur texture to kind of blend the fur fabric that we're going to add later into the clay more. It just kind of helps a little bit with the making seams disappear. And then once I'm happy with how everything looks, I'm going to end up putting our clay head in the oven for probably about 45, maybe 55 minutes to bake. Once my clay head is out of the oven and is finished cooling, I can then start working on the eyes. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to pop off those temporary glass pieces and then I'm going to replace them with the eyes that I want to use. I'm just going to attach them with a little bit of hot glue, and then the clay that I'm going to sculpt around them to make the eyelids are going to be what actually holds them in place. While adding the eyelids, I realized I wanted to add a couple extra smaller spikes here and there, even a couple of them going down the snout. So I'm just going to add a little bit of clay here and there and just start cleaning everything up. Now with the antler branches, I thought it was actually going to be best for me to paint these first and then work on the face, mainly because I feel like if I was going in between all the different branches and stuff, I was more likely to bump the face than I was to bump the antlers while working on the face. So I'm going to start by going over all of the antlers with a black and just getting everything completely covered. Once that's dried, I'm going to start adding more browns to it. Now the browns that I'm adding, I'm going to try and keep more on the muted side and kind of closer to a gray, mainly because since this is a winter creature, I want the branches to look kind of dead. I don't want them to look too lively, and if I made the browns too rich, it would look more springtime than winter. And then once I'm happy with how all the branches look, I'm going to move on to the face. So first thing I'm going to do is kind of extend that black into the face a little bit. That way I can blend it a little bit more. And then once that's dried, I'm going to start going over everything with a white. Now to make my snow leopard look a little bit more realistic, I'm going to add a little bit of staining to the face. Usually creatures that have more of a white fur don't have a perfectly clean white fur because they're out in the wild and just things happen, they get old, things stain. White definitely stains. So I'm going to add a little bit of discoloration to the front of the face, and then I'm going to slowly figure out where I want to add some spots. Now while I'm doing this, I'm also going to try and frame the eyes a little bit, so I'm going to kind of go around them with a black. This will kind of help bring out the blue color a little bit more and make the eyes stand out better. Now with the nose, right now I have it black, and I kind of like how that looks. I like it on the darker side, but I want to add a tiny bit of pink. Nothing really neon bright or anything like that, just a touch of pink to it. And then once all of my painting has dried, I just need to use a tool and clean up the glass eyes, get all that paint off of them. If I peel any paint off of the clay while doing this, I'll touch it up, and then just kind of make sure everything looks like how I want it to look. And then for the paws, I'm going to have the paws themselves plush, but I'm going to be using some resin claws to decorate them with. So I have these all attached to cardboard so that it's easy to paint, and I'm going to start with my black and just kind of go over absolutely everything. Now at first I kind of wanted to just leave them black, but as I was working I wanted them to kind of match the eyes, so when it came to resining them to protect the paint, I decided to actually add glitter to the resin. So basically what I did was I painted over everything with a thin layer of resin. I let it sit a little bit so it wouldn't run off, and then I sprinkled my glitter on top. I also decided that I wanted to add a little bit of glitter to the antlers as well. I didn't want to completely coat them like the claws, I just wanted to add a touch of it here and there. So I re-resined these. Basically I resined everything ahead of time, let it cure, and then I did another layer of resin on the antlers. Otherwise, if I had resined everything and tried to add the glitter, I would have gotten glitter stuck to the face too. So I'm just going to add a little bit of glitter and let these completely cure overnight. Okay, so since our clay and resin pieces are done, now we can start working on the sewing. So here is the pattern for my body. I decided to go a little bit more lengthy than a normal cat, just to kind of add to that like fantasy theme. I didn't want to have it like anatomically correct. I wanted to give it more of a dragon feel. And then the fabrics that I'm going to be using are a short plush fur fabric that has a leopard pattern already on it, and then a white, just keeping it kind of simple. So the first thing I'm going to do is I'm going to take the sides of the body. I have basically the entire body and the tail, just one solid piece for each side, and I'm going to start working on the back legs. So I have white fur fabric for the inside section of the back legs, kind of the hip, and I'm going to sew these in place. After that, I'm going to take a strip of white fur fabric and I'm going to use this as the belly. So I'm going to connect both side pieces to this piece of fabric. Next, I'm going to work on the fabric for the arms and the lower back legs. Each piece has the leopard pattern for the front or outer section, and then the white fur for the under section or inner section. So I'm going to sew these together going down just one side, and then we can start adding them to the body. For the front legs, I ended up cutting some slits in the fabric to where I want to connect them. That way I can have the wires run through them. And then for the back ones, I'm just going to connect them to the end of the upper leg. Now, as I got the fabric for the body put together, I realized I wanted to add kind of a decorative mane going down his back, something that looks like snow. So I'm actually going to take a bit of white fur fabric, I cut it to fit, and I'm going to thicken it up by using yarn. Now this part is kind of time consuming. Basically, I need to dissect the yarn. So I have it cut into a bunch of pieces, and I'm going to pull the individual strands of the yarn apart. This will give me kind of a curly fur. Now, if you want to straighten this, you can use a hair straightener and it should work just fine, but I kind of like the curly texture for the snowy aspect of the fur that I want. So I'm going to get all of that done. I also did a little bit of gray, and then I'm going to be cutting lines in my fur fabric and sewing these in place. Okay, so we have everything ready. I put together a wire frame and we can start putting everything on this wire frame to make our doll, starting with the fabric for the body. So I'm going to run the wires for the legs through the openings for the legs, and then we can take our clay head and we can glue it to the wire for the neck. Once the head is in place, I can take the fabric for the neck and start gluing it around the base of the head. When I get to the top, we'll be taking that mane that we made and gluing it to the very top behind all the antlers. Once my glue has dried, I'm going to start stuffing and closing up the body. So I'm going to start at the base of the head where the mane is and connect the mane to the body on both sides. And I'm just going to keep going and stuffing the body and sewing and stuff until I get to the very end of the tail. After that, I'm going to start adding our claws to our feet. So to make it easier, I figured I'd connect the claws, that way I could have them evenly spaced. So I'm just going to use a little bit of felt and I'm going to glue them to the felt. I'm then going to cut them out in strips, and then we can start gluing the fabric of the feet all the way around each individual claw. Once I get those in place, I'm going to stuff and close up the legs. I'm going to do this to both the front and back feet. Now I probably should have done this earlier, but I kind of had the idea to add paw pads, and I wanted them to be plush. So what I have is some fabric with the paw pads kind of drawn out, and I'm going to be sewing these together. So I have it where the white is the front fabric and then the pink is behind that. I'm going to follow all of these lines, and then I'm going to cut away the white fur fabric that is covering up the pink of the pads. Once I have these done, I'm just going to be sewing these to the bottoms of the feet. Like I said, I probably should have done this ahead of time and had it included in the body, but I just thought of it after the fact. I have a couple extra branches that I'm going to glue into the mane, and then I'm going to start furring the face. So I'm going to start with larger fur chunks, and I'm going to start gluing them around the base of the head and stuff, and then I'm going to start switching over to smaller and smaller trimmings. Okay guys, and here is our winter forest spirit. I had so much fun with this guy. I love how his face came out and all the antlers and stuff. I think I could have done something a little bit different with his paws, but I think they look pretty good. Now I'm going to have this guy up for sale on my website, so I'll have the link down below in the description, so if anyone wants to give him a new home, you can check that out. Now while you're down there, there's going to be a bunch of other links to art supplies and stuff. These are things that I like to use to make my art dolls, so if you're curious or you want to try something out yourself, you can check those links out. Now these are affiliated links, so they do help support the channel if you buy anything through them. Anyways guys, thank you so much for watching. Make sure to like, subscribe, do all that fun stuff, and I'll see you guys next time.